Are you frustrated, Arsenal fans, about the lack of business so far? Let me better yet, let me say significant business, because there's windfalls due on players that we've previously let go, and that's bringing money into the club. We've obviously signed Hincapié. We're obviously signed Zolis, or in the process of doing that. And we're obviously signing a free transfer in Millier. But in terms of significant business, I don't know. And I want to, before I carry on with everything, people, I find myself conflicted as an Arsenal fan, because obviously, I think I speak for many an Arsenal fan and many a football fan in general, in that the market is crazy. We're not calling for 100 odd million quid. We don't buy superstars, we make them. And I'm leaning towards that side. You know, go and find any player that Arsenal's been linked with, or any player that you're jealous of that's moved to a rival. They had to have started somewhere. So do we intercept that and find them and develop them before they become that? Because the alternative is this market, and it seems like obviously we want to find value. We've got principles, you know, gaps in valuations, but then to a degree, the game is the game. It is what it is. Bacola 100+ million, Morgan Rogers 117+ million, Elliot Anderson 116, Tonali are close to 100 odd million. Then so you see that, and you see the rumors around Guimarães, and it is conflicting, because I would like scouts to do their job and find value for market and developing talents. But if you're going to develop them, then you know, Morgan Rogers of today is not the same one he was at Middlesbrough. Obviously, there was a trajectory in it. You know, at one point, the best chef in the world probably struggled to cut an onion and cut his fingers and things of that ilk. So I understand that. But then there's also that conflicting thing in that we have won a Premier League. We are defending a Premier League. You've seen in the Champions League what individual brilliance can do for you. We've seen moments with our existing talent. And I think to go to that next level, we do need some players that are ready-made. Obviously, we ain't got Morgan Rogers. I'm not to say Morgan Rogers is in his final form, but assuming he signed for us, he's been through a level of education. It's just more about fine-tuning. The same logic with Declan Rice. So, again, but Mikel Arteta, make sure you work it out. But, yeah, man, we are all wondering where are the signings and things of that ilk. So, yeah, people, smash the like button and let's crack on. First, we're going to start with Hand of Arsenal. Arsenal maintained strong interest in Konza. Lecole interest cooled a while back after I reported it. Lecole seems like he's within, you know, touching distance of going to Chelsea. And I think one thing that's interesting in the transfer market, if you deep it, people, is it seems like there's a lot of purely owners to owners dealing with the deals rather than sporting directors. Is that something for us to get involved in? The club also held interest in Jacobo Ramon, but Como have no intention to sell given their Champions League exploits. Newcastle remain firm on their valuation of Bruno, in brackets 80 to 85 million. Martinelli is for sale. Arsenal were told 80 to 100 million gets it done for Morgan during May/June time. Again, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I'm not privy to all of the info, but maybe we needed to get that done in May to June time, because, you know, we've left the door open. Chelsea have hijacked it. We got hijacked for Monga. That just shows you snooze, you lose, innit? This was relayed to Berta via agents. Anderson deal changed Villa's valuation completely, and it works for Villa, because they could have got, in Arsenal's case, ideally 80 million. And in the worst case for Arsenal, 100 odd million. Either way, they would have lost out on 17 million or 27 odd million. So they've made a sizable profit. That's probably helped them flex, because you hear Aston Villa, you know, their issues with PSR and wages and all them things. You slap in the other players they've moved on. It worked for Villa, you know. Someone at Villa smart. Why on God's green earth? Well, you know, you would change your mind. There's no release clause in Morgan Rogers' contract. Why would you not want to get more money? If the shoe was on the other foot, these are the kind of things we need to do. So yeah, that changed it. Arsenal verbally offered 80. They're willing to go to 100 max, but the valuation had changed because the Anderson and Tonali deals had dictated the market by this point. Morgan and his family were fully set on Arsenal. Face-to-face meeting with Mikel, now reported via major journalists too. Now, I'm sure Morgan and his family are disappointed, but they'll be happy now. They've got to move to Chelsea, you know, so he's progressing in his career. Obviously, if you're City where Elliot Anderson's concerned, or Tonali where Spurs are concerned, you don't give a monkeys, because, you know, you snooze, you lose, people. So it's food for thought. The Athletic have come out with their deal sheet. We're just going to go through the most meaningful bits and pieces of this, You know, I don't really care what other teams are doing. I did browse through the Chelsea section, people, and they want 65 for Nicholas Jackson. They're obviously going to get rid of Garnacho. You know, a lot of these clubs are actually doing well or getting decent money in terms of sales. Is that something we need to do? Because again, the game is the game. For me, obviously, everything we need to do in terms of a left winger, a striker, a centre mid, immediate first team level raises, whether that's players that are 100 odd million, whether that's unknown entities that 12 months from now we're going to say signing of the season, you've got to do that. But then also the academy. We need to be selling players for more money. You know, we have got sell-on clauses. So if the Mika Berevs, the Balligans of this world, owing to the World Cup, Koza Jubri's been linked with a move away from Brighton, you know, there's sell-on clauses. But is there something to say with academy talents or bringing players in from the four corners of this world, buying low, selling high? If they progress to the first team, great. But if they go from being bought for £500,000 and we like two players are signed for £1,000,000 each, so 500k, they both become 20, 30 million pound players. That offsets. So then when you're in scenarios, and I'm more thinking years ahead. So then when you're in scenarios where, oh, okay, we don't really want to pay, we want to pay 80 million for Morgan Rodgers, not 117. You've sold certain players. That difference, you know, you grit your teeth and say, you know what, we'll slap that extra money on top and keep it moving. Obviously, in terms of developing talents for the first team is one thing, but, and I'm going down a rabbit hole, if that's going to be the case, then you need a bridge gap, because if we sign a player that's good enough to play in England, good enough to play for Arsenal, but not good enough to have a long-term future, then you've got to take him, maybe put him on loan where he's giving himself a platform. So the right loan. And that's also another avenue Arsenal need to improve the loan market. And then Bob's your uncle. You see where I'm going, in it. So let's go through, man. I don't care about Aston Villa and what's going on. Morgan Rodgers is gone. We know about their PSR issues. Don't really matter. We're scrolling through, people, trying to see what's going on where Arsenal are concerned, people. I did mention Koza Jubi. Anderlecht offered £5 million, and he's drawing interest from Augsburg, Paris FC, which would be a good platform to play in the top division in France. And obviously, Liam Rosen is there. So there's a sell. There must be a sell-on clause, even though he left on a free transfer. Well, in fact, there might not be. What happened to Arsenal's pursuit of Morgan Rodgers? Now, hopefully, this is the last time I speak on such. Rodgers was a clear priority for Arsenal in this window. They carried out extensive background work on the deal, with Rodgers subject to a charm offensive from Mikel Arteta and a number of Arsenal players, probably all the England lads. Arteta saw Rodgers as someone who could bring a new dimension to Arsenal's attack. That's great. Unfortunately, he's not here. And obviously, if scouts do their job and get a good bit of business, it is what it is. But Morgan Rodgers was your top target. The fee that you have to pay for Bacola, we're told, you know, Morgan Rodgers is near enough the same. So you've shown your face in that. Who are the top targets? Where are the top targets? Of course, was linked with Rodgers. We've been linked with Diamande now, linked with Nico Williams. It's the same old wingers, really. So you're not going to have to figure this out. But right now, the window isn't closed. I'm not going to panic. But it doesn't feel an Arsenal fan with optimism in that, A, you know, we're not just happy to end our title drought, with, you know, and B, trying to retain it. Like, there's obviously stuff Arteta has to do tactically. The existing players, especially in attack, have to go up to another level. You get where I'm going, in it. But recruitment is a big key as to whether we're going to go one better in that. The only way it can get better than last season is retaining the Premier League, potentially winning the Prem, the League Cup, the FA Cup, bringing 2 trophies home, sort of thing, innit? Throughout this process, however, the club had a clear valuation of the player. Arsenal did not want to go beyond 80 million for the 23-year-old. Villa's insistence on a fee in excess of 116 million naturally led to a standoff. Chelsea were able to take advantage, meeting Villa's demands and wrapping up a deal in the space of 48 hours. Must be nice. Although Arsenal had believed they were Rodgers' preferred preference, he was open to joining either club, and personal terms proved no issue. And that's the thing, you know, if a man only wants Arsenal, great. But if he's open to Arsenal and he's open to Chelsea and he's open to this, you leave the door open when you don't complete a deal. Now, we hear Bert has been working via intermediaries and agents, and I know transfers go left all the time, but it just feels like a lot of wasted groundwork for him, for Monga, and all the other things on top of all the other things we're attempting to do, people. Once Chelsea had met Villa's valuation, Arsenal were contracted to see whether they were prepared to match that bid. They declined. Who might they move for instead? Having passed on meeting the Rodgers fee, Arsenal will turn to alternative targets. France winger Bradley Bacola is one of several attackers on sporting director Andrea Berta's radar, although PSG are reluctant to sell, value him in excess of 100 odd million. Now, people, I don't doubt that we want Bradley Bacola, but it's very conflicting. Now, Bradley Bacola links to Arsenal. We're going to become even more aggressive because Rodgers gone. And I don't know all the moving pieces, but it appears that Berta's talking via agents and middlemen and all these kind of things. What if now Bradley Bacola gets the vibe that, yo, I was second choice, I'm not really on it? Bearing in mind, on top of that, PSG don't want to sell. You see how it makes it even more difficult. Arteta remains a huge admirer of Argentina forward Julian Alvarez, but Atletico Madrid's position remains that the 26-year-old is not for sale, either within La Liga or abroad. Obviously, Zolis is putting on the final touches to his move to Arsenal. Big him up, people. Arsenal maintain their interest in Newcastle's Bruno Guimarães. Again, Arsenal have a clear valuation for the player and will only proceed with a deal if Newcastle are willing to negotiate within those parameters. Alternatively, Arsenal will move on to other targets. Now, for a bunch of reasons I've no doubt discussed in this video and before, as much as I like Bruno, you might as well move on then, innit? Because Bruno Guimarães, Bradley Bacola, Morgan Rogers, I keep saying it, they can want Arsenal, we can want them. It comes down to how much we're prepared to pay. And I get the premise of fair valuation, but you have to be able to overpay. So I'd love to be proven wrong, but for a bunch of reasons with what Newcastle are doing, what Guimarães means, what we're seeing, you might as well just forget Guimarães. In terms of the profile, forget the individual, but the profile of Morgan Rogers, Bruno Guimarães, all these guys you've missed out on, go and find alternatives or assess the other targets in it. Because what's the point? Lengthy contract, and they got lengthy draw outs, ultimately ending up short-handed. I'm not really on it. Let's just change strategies now, unless we want to sit at the big boy table. Concerns over William Saliba's fitness may intensify Arsenal's search for defensive reinforcements. Aston Villa and England's Ezri Konsa is a target. But once again, there's a significant gap between Arsenal and Villa's valuation. Trossard obviously said goodbye. Players have obviously come back for pre-season. How on God's green earth Reece Nelson is still here, I don't know, but I salute him. You'd imagine him and Gabriel Jesus are going to be moved on. No one don't care about the Morgan Rogers stuff, people. I can never say his name, but Karim Alajabegovic, a player we was linked with, and I did a video on, is also being linked with Chelsea, people. So there's that. No one don't really care what's going on with Liverpool. They've still got an interest in Bradley Bacola. Liverpool would love to add him to their squad. Manchester City seem to still be the front runners for Bawardi. It seems like it's gone cold where Arsenal interested. Chelsea have also been linked with John Stones, by the way. He's also been linked with us. Manu Kone has been linked with Manchester United. Another one where we might as well just move on from Guimarães. Kone, I think, gave a good impression and audition of himself at the World Cup. I'd love to get involved with that. Apparently, he's been discussed at Man United, but at this stage, it's not certain Man United would commit the finances possible required to sign him. They've also been linked with Alex Scott, who is subject to interest from both Arsenal and Chelsea, and allegedly has turned down the deal. Smash the like button and subscribe. We're going to circle back on Alex Scott in a moment, people. And, you know, with Newcastle obviously getting Danilo and obviously maybe, what's his name from Spurs, man? Bergvall. People are going to make 2 + 2 = 10 and say, oh, they're centre mids. Are they the replacements for Bruno Guimarães? Why is our thing always drawn out as well, people? There's long sagas like Rice was a saga, Eze was a saga, Gyökeres, apologies, was a saga. They've obviously all worked. But for every one of them, you can point towards a Douglas Luiz, a Morgan Rogers, a Mikhail Mudryk, a Caicedo, whether they've worked out, wherever they've gone or not, people. So, yeah. Barcelona are still the primary front runners for Julian Alvarez, and you'd imagine with the World Cup drawing to a close, the games really begin. TalkSport are saying Arsenal are preparing an improved offer to sign Bruno Guimarães. TalkSport understands Mikel Arteta has identified the player as a priority signing this summer. All of that was said about Morgan Rogers and what happened there. And for what it's worth, Rogers has finalised his Chelsea contract. He signed a 6-year deal plus the option of another one. We were only prepared to go to 80 million. And Ben Jacobs has said we're set to bid again for Guimarães. So everyone is going to regurgitate the same things at some point. Barcelona expect Julian Alvarez to make a forceful public move following the World Cup. The Argentine feels betrayed after Atletico alleged promise to facilitate his departure before later refusing to negotiate. Barca believe that the publicity, confirming his desire to join the club could force Atletico to reconsider their position. Adam Crafton of the Athletic has said, I had a conversation in May with someone who's incredibly well connected in European football. He said the talk of people he was speaking to was Arsenal are ready to do serious disruptive business this summer to take the team to the next level. Show us then. Simple as that. It's all great. Bradley Bacola has been mentioned, says Ornstein, but we don't know of active movements from Arsenal on Bacola at this moment in time. PSG's standpoint is they do not want to sell him. They would like to renew his contract. If they are to sell him, the price in their mind would be considerably higher, I think, than Elliot Anderson's move to Man City. This is a player who has won the Champions League. You've got to pay the market rate. You've got to pay the market rate. He does have 2 years to go on his contract. He doesn't appear to be signing. He appears to be open to moving. It seems for multiple reasons. It's one that might take some time to develop, whether they're staying or going. So it feels like a lot of things are dragged out, which is great, but pre-season has started. Apparently, we've made fresh contact over Nico Williams, Team Talk understands. With the player once again firmly back on their shortlist, Andrea Burris held discussions around Williams as Arsenal have been exploring whether a deal is realistic this summer. Team Talk understands that his contract includes a release clause worth around 77 million. So we can activate that release clause of 77 million, which means you have to pay it all up front. Obviously, we know how that works. Or you could try and facilitate a deal worth 77 million, provided Bilbao want to do that and provided the terms are favorable. You see where I'm going with this. So it does make you naturally pessimistic. Spanish sources have indicated the Premier League would appeal to Williams, with Arsenal viewed as an attractive destination should he decide to leave Bilbao. Not to mention the wages he's on already and no doubt would get. Arsenal are willing to spend big on an elite player, but only if the asking price fits their valuation. Well, I mean, what is the valuation? Because you're going to have to overpay. This is great, people, but it don't really help me with anything. We've held discussions, says Gary Jacobs of the Times, over midfielders Alex Scott and Bawardi, as well as Bradley Bacola. Their main target has been Julian Alvarez, as they are set to step up their interest in Bruno Guimarães. Arsenal also remain in active talks to sign Ezri Konsa. This summer, Josh Kroenke was briefly involved in informal talks with the Aston Villa owners regarding Rodgers. Villa were unhappy with the approach to negotiations by Arsenal, who were trying to hold informal talks via intermediaries. So that seems to be we seem to be getting middlemen to do the legwork, relay the information to us. It's bit us on the arse twice now, isn't it, really? Or biting us on the arse with Guimarães. Arsenal indicated they were willing to offer about 80 million, and it's understood they would have paid just over 100, but we're not prepared to meet Villa's 120 valuation, which had increased based on the value of other transfers completed this summer. Had Arsenal not dragged their feet, they could have wrapped up the deal weeks ago for about 100 million, but perhaps still thought last week that an offer in that range may have been accepted. Again, as I keep saying, you snooze, you lose. And again, we're still interested in Guimarães. Newcastle are willing to negotiate within those parameters. Alternatively, Arsenal will move on to other targets. For me, just move on, bro. Alex Scott has turned down a new contract at Bournemouth amid strong interest from Arsenal, Chelsea, United. Sky Sports News understands believe the player has not indicated he's currently willing to agree new terms. So it could make it easier to prize him away. But again, top money. Speaking of top money, Arsenal have extended their deal with long-term title sponsor Emirates 2 years early. The deal is a significant increase on the 45 mil a year that runs until 2028. The deal is understood to include the naming rights of the stadium. Arsenal obviously have been linked with John Stones. There's interest from England and abroad in his services. We're still being linked with Yan Diomande. I did cover this yesterday. Declan Rice has spoken about needing injections to numb nerve pain during the season. And Bukayo Saka, as you know, has been nursing injuries throughout the tournament. Ben White and Timber are expected to play a part in pre-season. Got to wrap them in cotton wool. There's concerns over Kai Havertz and Gabriel Magalhaes' knees. But it's obviously with the three of them, because it says Martinelli there. So with Martinelli, Magalhaes, and Kai, it's obviously great that they exited the World Cup early. Again, we've gone over this, so I won't waste you lot's time. Once again, the club are also expected to submit an improved bid for Guimarães. I'm tired of hearing this. Also, willing to spend big on an elite player. Again, it's the same old stuff. AFC Camden has said Alex Scott rejecting a new contract is an interesting development. Arsenal definitely keen on him and have been into his agent this summer. Other clubs interested as well. Apparently, according to the Times, Julian Alvarez is our main target. I'll believe it when I see it, man.